Hey everyone, welcome to the Young Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm Matt Estacio, your host today with Jake Kiltz, my co-host. We're here with Kimberly Lechnick. Is that how you say your last name?
Almost. Pretty good. Yeah? Lechnick.
Close enough. Well, thank you for coming on the show, Kimberly. We're really excited to have you talk about your business, talk about some of the things that you're going through with your business, and give some people some insight on entrepreneurship and starting off. So we can go ahead and start with your background a little bit. Give us a little bit of insight as far as your business. So let's talk about Reconnection Zone. Is that the name of it?
Oh, the Family Reconnection Zone. Yes.
Okay. Cool. That's your Facebook group, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
And then your business is
Intentional Pathways by Design.
Gotcha. Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about that. When was that born?
It was born in August of 2018.
So new.
Yes, baby.
How are you doing? How's it going?
It's going well. It's
Yeah?
going well. I'm very pleased with what's going on right now.
And give us just a description of what this business is and why it's important.
Well, I'll introduce myself. My name is Kimberly Lechnick. I'm a relationship coach, and I am on a mission to reconnect families around the world.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And what led you to doing this? I mean, off air we were talking a lot, and there's a whole lot of backstory of why this came to fruition. And it sounds like you have a lot of background in this relationship. It's not like you just wanted to become a relationship coach. It kind of just naturally happened that way.
Absolutely. I think it was just a natural progression in my journey. Not to go all the way back, but I almost have to, right? So it started when I was a wee. I was 4 years old. My family, my mom and dad weren't connecting. They weren't connecting. And that journey led me to just a variety of different, unfortunately, toxic and very dysfunctional situations that I was in as a child. And so when I was around 16, I was approached by my home ec teacher, and she said, "Hey, Kimberly, I think you'd be really, really good at working with kids." And I'm like, "You're right. I love children." So thus the journey started. And it's just been a great, great journey. Very divine, very divine.
So this started when you were 16, essentially. I mean, like you were talking about when you're younger, but that was the trajectory moment for you, was being at 16, having this like, hey, you should do this specific thing.
Yes.
And then you went on from there.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
So what happened after 16, after you did this? What was the next things that happened to you?
It was just, I don't know. I felt like, given my home situation, that God has always been watching over me. And I feel like he has been walking me through this path. And it's just been a lovely, lovely journey. So, it started with just working as an assistant teacher, then a teacher in the childcare setting, and then an assistant director, and then a director. And it wasn't just one setting. I mean, I worked with a variety of different kids, families, supporting them through many, many different challenges, whether it was educational, whether it was social, whether it was family oriented. And, I was learning and growing with these people in just such a wonderful way. And all the while, developing myself. I couldn't ask for anything else.
That's awesome. So can you elaborate a little bit on this, like, support? Like, what were you doing exactly in your role before starting this business? Like, what would you said you went from being an assistant teacher to a teacher to a director, all that stuff.
Yes.
What were some of your roles during that time, and how did those responsibilities help you build your brand now?
Well, basically, it was anything from just caring for the child, right? But caring for the child pulls the parents in. So, and then educating the children. And then it's when they get to school and you're working with the school age kids, and it's helping them through their challenges that they were facing. And then even actually being pulled into a lot of family situations. I was talking to a friend the other day, and I was telling her, when I think back, I wonder about where these kids are. I worked with several kids in the foster care system that, were struggling. This one little guy in particular years ago, it just is imprinted in my mind. He'd say, "That's okay, Miss Kimberly. If I don't listen, I just have to go to a new home."
Oh, wow. That's deep.
I just pack my suitcase and I just leave. So it's not just, people think that you're just, like babysitting. It's not. It's so much more. And all of those things that I took away were just valuable tools, and then of course on the business end of it, I was taking care of all the business parts, so, running a business is kind of like second nature for me.
Awesome. So that's like the director side. That's when you kind of got into that role. So you were actually directing other teachers.
Absolutely.
And the entire organization essentially to like workflow and making sure everything was running properly.
And it was my business. I mean, it was essentially, my business,
Awesome.
not my business.
You were kind of like the CEO of the whole thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And in many different capacities,
So what happened with that? Did you just decide to leave? You didn't want to do it anymore? Or is this when you decided to start your business? What happened in that transition?
Well, that's interesting because all the while I was doing that, I was putting myself through school.
Oh,
so
wow.
the initial idea was, I want to become a speech pathologist, right? But, I got so entrenched in what I was doing and I felt like my service, it wasn't done, right? So I just kept, plugging through. Well, that then led me, I met my husband, which we've been married next month. It'll be 18 years.
Wow, congratulations.
Congrats.
Thank you. It is a congrats.
That's
a lot of hard work.
Well, you better be since you're a relationship coach. So.
Yeah, seriously.
But a lot of hard work, and that's another thing. You can't ignore that personal experience, right? You're down there in the trenches. You're with everybody else. When you're doing that, you're picking up skills and tools that you can use. We are always learning, always growing.
That's awesome. Could you give us like an example of how your personal relationship with your husband, 18 years, like you said, it was tough. It's been a challenge. How do you relate that to now your clients? How do you use those experiences to tailor towards your clients, your audience, people that you're trying to service?
That's a great question, Matt. And I'd have to say that the struggle is real.
Absolutely.
It's real. And through my life journey, I feel like I was divinely driven. And when I'm feeling isolated, God is with me. And I kind of do that, whether it's God, whether it's the universe, whoever supports you, I really do encourage that spirituality, the universe, it's so important. It's just so important. And so that's woven, through coaching, it's woven in, because there are times that it's really, really hard and, to stay in there and to just really be, but it works.
Yeah.
So how do you diagnose somebody that says, I don't like my husband or my wife or whatever it's like? What are the first like 5 questions that like come into your mind that you want to like understand the situation? Like, what is the main questions that you're asking, I guess?
Jake, that's a great question. And it's one that can't be answered easily because every individual is different. And I do not have a blanket answer for that. But what I will tell you is that when people come for coaching, they're not coming, there's a big distinct difference between life coaching and therapy. This is not therapy. When I look at my clients, I'm looking at them as a whole person. They have everything they need inside of themselves, everything they need. It's just they're coming to me, telling me that they have something they want to work through, and we're working through that together. But you know what? They come to me and they have all the answers. It's just we're teasing them out.
Got it. So what's the main difference between a relationship coach or what you're doing and therapy?
Okay. The main difference is going to be that a therapist is going to diagnose you. They're going to tell you that there's something wrong with you. They're going to say, well, let's look back into your childhood. Well, as a relationship coach, we're not about that. We're not about that at all. We're about saying, you know what? Let's take things from where you are sitting right now. We don't need to go backwards. There's no need. There's no need. Let's focus on what is going on now and find some strategies and create an action plan that's going to work for you.
So what are some strategies and action plans that, you know, maybe more people, like an average, like let's say on average, I guess actually let me back up. What is the main problem that you encounter that you're having to deal with?
Great question. And that problem is the lack of connection.
Lack of connection.
Lack of connection. I think we're all connected, right? We're all connected. And we're connected kind of like this, right? You know, we're kind of superficially connected. And what I like to do is help people connect to the core, right? That's so important to connect to the core, because you know what? When you're going through bad times, if you're going like this, you have a little leeway, right? So if you're like this and you're just getting further away, you know, that's not too good, you know. And it's really interesting. I don't know if you guys watched the Oscars yesterday.
Nah.
Okay. Well, the only reason why I wanted to watch the Oscars is I bet you can guess. You know, I think many of us are fascinated with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper, right?
They have a definite connection, that's for sure.
Yes. You know what? And there's no denying it.
Yeah.
There's no denying it. I think that's really, really an important, you know, in the world. I don't know if you're people watchers, but I'm a people watcher and I watch people all the time.
Absolutely.
And I think it's super fascinating to watch them. And if you watch them, right, you know, and you kind of know the history of their connection. And that's why I'm interested in it. I'm interested in it because I think it's a great model for us to continuously strive for. Right? It's a great model. And it's a great model because if you notice, they have a soul connection. They're connected at the soul. It doesn't make them bad people. Okay, fine. He has a girlfriend, you know, she had a fiance, you know, it doesn't make them bad people. What it illustrates, though, is it illustrates how powerful that can be. We were put on this earth, or it's my belief, we were put on this earth to connect. But we weren't just to connect superficially. We were there to connect to the core. So I think it's a great way to look at that and say, you know what's going on with my connection? Even myself, what's going on with my connection? And how can I deepen that?
Yeah. So is that what you mean by connecting at the core? Like basically connecting with yourself, essentially. Understanding yourself, learning about yourself. Is that what you mean by connecting to the core?
Great question, Matt. Actually, that's the starting. And in the Family Reconnection Zone, we talk a lot about self-love. Yeah. You know, that's very important. But on a deeper level is once you fill yourself up, you know, you're almost like preparing yourself to connect, right? To your spouse, to your children, you know, to others, to your friends, to your family, right? So that's where the connection to the core is. You know, we need to constantly be striving for that.
Absolutely.
So how would you apply? So our main audience is the young entrepreneurs group, which again, you don't have to be young to be in the group, but they're all business owners. So how can you apply these relationship strategies and, you know, your philosophies to having a successful business? Like, you know, give us some tips that you see a lot that would help people in their business.
Well, for one, it's fill yourself up. Absolutely. You know, I without a doubt feel like people need to spend more time really looking at themselves, right? You know, because we're in relationships, business relationships, personal relationships, and why is this not working? When really, honestly, we need to step back. We need to step back. And sometimes it's all, you know, because we're not putting into ourselves, right? We're running thin. We're running thin. And we really need to focus on that.
So how do you do that?
How do you do that? Well, for me, I do that through ballroom dancing.
I see.
It fills me up. It makes me shine.
So it's all unique. Like you have to find something that fills you up personally.
Absolutely. And I think it is a must. It is not something that you should just say, oh, I don't have any time because I've got all these other responsibilities. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't believe that it's taking away from your relationship. I think that it's adding to it because then you can be present.
Yeah,
that's good.
I saw something today I think it was on Facebook or something, and it says you can't pour into a glass if your glass is empty.
Absolutely.
That's kind of the same general
Yes.
idea.
Absolutely.
And when you say fill yourself, that could be in any different direction.
Absolutely.
Like, for me, I do jujitsu. I fill myself with knowledge on how to, to submit my opponent or get a good cardio workout or whatever that is. I'm able now to fill myself with that, build confidence within myself, so that way I can go and pour that into other people.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think, Matt, from a deeper perspective on that, you're learning so much more from that. So much more.
Yeah.
So much more. So I think that's awesome.
That's good.
So would you say that's another way you can fill yourself, not just with self-love, but with knowledge, with expertise?
Well, that is self-love.
Yes.
Right? You're treating yourself with love and respect because you're filling yourself up with all the things that make your soul sing.
Absolutely.
That's good. That's really good.
So let's talk a little bit more about your business. You just started this. It's fresh.
It's a baby.
Less than a year. When you first started your business, what would you say was probably like one of the most monumental struggles that you had to deal with starting off? Like the first day when you decided, I'm gonna create a business, I'm gonna do this. What was the one of the biggest first struggles that you had to overcome and deal with in order to make it come to life?
I would have to say that one of the biggest things was, I like to think I can help everybody.
Yeah, we all do.
yeah, and you can't.
Yeah.
You can't. So it was coming to terms with that and kind of having a focus.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you kind of dialed in on your demographic, would you
Yes.
say? Okay.
Well, and the mission, because I think that eventually it'll spread out, because I think Jake and I were talking about, that this means, the family means, that it's relationships with the kids and everything else. So, I have a vast amount of knowledge I want to share with the community, with, the world, so eventually that's going to branch out. But yeah, I'm kind of, narrow at this point.
How'd you get to that conclusion? Like from building your business, how did you decide, okay, this is the first thing I need to do is to target my audience and narrow down that demographic, or the people that you're trying to help, essentially? What helped you kind of decide that?
Well, that's interesting, because just like you seek knowledge for your martial art, I seek a lot of knowledge constantly for my coaching.
Okay.
And so through my business coach and through some trainings and different things, I meditate a lot. So through those things, I kind of, I've got to do it, can't help everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
What are some mistakes that, it's only been a year, so I'm assuming a lot of it is throwing a lot against the wall and kind of figuring out what works and what doesn't work. What are some mistakes that you wish, not that you wish you didn't do, but that were hard to get over, and how did you get over them?
Well, that's interesting, Jake, because I kind of view, if you want to use the word mistake, as kind of like a learning tool.
Yeah, of course.
At this time in my life, years
Yes.
ago, I might have looked at it differently, but like right now, I just kind of, what? Everything's not going to work, and I'm going to just trial and error, see what works and see what doesn't. And if it doesn't, what? No harm, no foul, because also now at this stage of the game, I'm a role model for my boys. And I want them to know that, what? You get a little mistake, oh well, so what? You move past it. You got to slay your next dragon.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's good.
Awesome.
That's good.
So what would you say then was going through those mistakes and everything and looking back on them, what would you say is like one of those mistakes that you really learned a lot from? Like that really were instrumental again in creating this business and working with people? Like obviously they're mistakes, but you learned from them, but how would you say you learned from those mistakes?
Well, I've got a great one.
Okay.
I joined a networking organization, and I was approached by someone to partner with them, and I'm kind, and people sometimes think that they can take advantage of me because I'm nice. And it doesn't matter, no matter how much that happens. I'm passionate about helping people. And this individual had kind of done that, And so I was thinking that I was going to partner with this person, and it was great. And I had like all these plans and everything. And I'm thinking, no, You know, I was talking to my attorney about it, and I'm like, you know what? I woke up with a stomach ache when I was supposed to like sign the papers, and I said, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do it. And I feel like that's why meditation and finding your higher power and trusting your gut is so important, because you really need to listen. And, you know, sometimes you need quiet, right? You know, so you can move past those. But I'd say that was probably my biggest thing, but I don't look at it as a mistake. I look at it as feeling grateful for it, right? Because it taught me so much, you know, about the power that I really have inside myself.
That's good.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you learned from that experience.
Absolutely.
You were able to say, okay, when I do have those gut feelings, when I'm making business decisions, to follow that.
Absolutely.
And you keep bringing up divine, so that has a lot to do with it, obviously. You look at it as those gut feelings are coming from something bigger than yourself.
Absolutely. They're coming through me. Absolutely. You know, like it sounds, you know, I was so excited about it. And, you know, it taught me that people are going to try to take advantage of me, right?
Absolutely,
They're
yeah.
going to try and take advantage of me, but I have to stay strong in my power and my roots. You know, my feet are like my roots of my tree, and I can't, you know, allow that. I can't allow that.
Can't let your feet get swept from under you, essentially.
Absolutely. Martial arts. Yeah.
That's right.
So as we're finishing up here, I want you to give somebody that is just starting a business, because you're so fresh in it, some great tips and strategies that have really helped you, that you think could help the general people that are just starting out in their business. Or even mindset stuff, you know.
Okay.
I think that would help.
I think that the most important thing I would have to say is that really pay attention to where you're making your decisions. Are you making fear-based decisions, or are you making decisions from your soul?
That's good.
And if you're making decisions from your soul, then you know that it's the right decision. You're listening to yourself. You're listening to what's going on. If you're hesitating and you're not speaking, like if somebody asks you a question and you can't come up with the answer and it doesn't flow, then you have to question whether or not that's based out of fear.
Absolutely.
That's really good.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kimberly, for talking with us a little bit. If you want to go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you and your business, kind of give them a link or something that they can tune in to some of the stuff that you got going on with the Family Reconnection Zone. And
yeah, that's great, Matt. Thank you. I'd have to say that you can find me in the Family Reconnection Zone on Facebook, of course, or Intentional Pathways by Design. My website should be up and ready in a couple weeks. And just reach out. I'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. So Facebook's probably the best place to reach out to you
right now. Yeah,
cool.
I'm building my Twitter, and I'm and LinkedIn. Okay. I'm on LinkedIn too. Got a pretty good following, and then my website will be up in a couple weeks.
Cool. Do you have a website name yet?
Yeah, Intentional Pathways by Design.
.com.
Yep.
Cool.
You got the domain?
Yep.
Good. That's
Beautiful.
nice.
Well
That's
done.
really nice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was really nice meeting you.
Yeah.
It was great. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to the Young Entrepreneurs Network, and we will see you next time.